tonight we'll do our usual routine, and that is do some stuff on a chalkboard for about, 20, 25 minutes. I want to do it a little bit shorter tonight, and we'll do some visuals for 20, 25 minutes. Again, I want to be shorter because we have an expert with us tonight. His name is Rob Reppin. He's been mining for gold up in Liberty for more than 20 years. He's a very smart guy, and he's a very nice, warm, welcoming guy, and he's agreed to come on up on stage here and answer your questions. Let's get started by saying this. I teach a geology class called Geology of Washington, 10 o'clock every morning. I teach it fall, winter, and spring. Geology of Washington. So we cover everything. Earthquakes, volcanoes, mountain building, ice age floods, glaciers, rivers, landslides. And I never talk about Liberty. I don't have a Liberty gold mine lecture. And I would occasionally get questions like, well, I kept waiting for the stuff about the gold. Like there's gold right over there. Why aren't you talking about it? And I would tell the student, I don't know a thing about what's going on up there. I've been here 25 years. And I couldn't find any information. In the scientific literature, there's hardly anything written from the geologist's point of view of the Liberty Gold Mining District. And it's a very rare place. The gold there is unusual. So I didn't have a way to learn. I didn't know anybody in Liberty. And occasionally I'd have somebody from Liberty come down to the college and they'd visit my office and talk about this and that, and they'd have all these specific questions. And I'd say, look, I really appreciate you driving in, but I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any of this stuff. It would be kind of awkward. And it's like, why did I drive all the way in here? And you're so smart, but I don't, it's just, it's terrible. So I figured I just wasn't going to learn because, it's all private land. I can't go up there. I don't want to get shot at. And it's all. Until last winter, I get a phone call from Rob Reppin. He says, I prospector up in Liberty and heard you offer your class for free to the townsfolk. Is that true? And I'm like, sure it is. Yeah, college kids are in there, but we open the class to everybody. And I always have about, half a dozen retired folks only who are mostly in there. They're sitting there with the kid from Federal Way and somebody from, they're taking their notes and everything. And they add a lot to the class, and it's wonderful. And Rob says, I'll be down tomorrow. And so here's this guy who's got 20 years of gold mining experience, successfully finding gold, knows a lot about the geology, and he's coming down here and taking Geology 101, essentially. So what was in it for him? Well, he learned a bunch of basic stuff from me, some context for a bunch of his detailed information in the mines, but I learned from him. And since the class, I've been out to his place a few times, and so I have enough that I can present a Liberty Gold lecture. And now I have a Liberty Gold lecture for my class. Thank you, Rob. And it goes a little something like this. All right, so there is gold up in Liberty, but there's two very different deposits. Right off the bat, we got to realize there's not one place you're finding all the gold in Liberty. There's two distinctly different apples and oranges that we're talking about here. And to sketch that, here's a cross section. So here's some people, all right, and sun. It's a sunny day. And here's US 97. We're driving north up to Blewett Pass. We're driving right up the valley bottom in Liberty, right? Liberty's right off the road. And there's hills up above Liberty. So, up in the hills, there are hard rock mines. Hard rock mines. Gold coming right out of bedrock. And there are tunnels up there in the hills. Tunnels that are right in the hard rock. And they're finding gold. They're finding crystalline gold. They're finding very rare wire gold. Only a few spots on this planet do you have this very rare wire gold, these crystals of gold. So that's up there, and Rob's got one of those mines. Rob also has a mine down here in the valley bottom. So apples and oranges, two completely different stories, but both have the gold. So down here in the valley bottom, are placer operations. You may have heard that term, placer mining. So these are gold deposits that are in nuggets, not the wire now, but the wire has been compacted into these gold nuggets, and the nuggets are underneath a bunch of river rock. So in other words, the gold has been moved into the valley bottoms, and you can collect gold, you can find gold, you can make money off the gold that's down in the valley bottoms. So let me be a little bit more specific now. Up here in the hard rock area, the mines are almost always associated with a wall of lava rock. So this is basalt. It's a dike. We're going to talk about this more on the next sketch I've got for you. And the mines in the hard rock are in blue shales. Let's call them black shales. Where the black shales intersect the walls of basalt rock. So this is brown basalt and black shale. The mines are right in that context, right where the shale meets the basalt. Okay, let's put that in our mind and hang on to that for a bit. Down here low, let's enlarge that. What does that look like? Well, the bedrock that is below US 97, that's below the Liberty Cafe, that's below a lot of places, is the shale. That same shale, which is 50 million years old, by the way. And right on the top of the shale, and in fact, in the upper 1 foot of the, 1 foot, in the upper 1 foot of the shale, in the cracks at the top of this shale, the gold is sitting down in those little nooks and crannies. These nuggets that were brought in by water, they're sitting in the upper 1 foot of the shale. And sitting on top of the shale is, on average, 50 feet of river gravels. 50 feet of river gravels. And so you go, okay, well, I guess these guys are like going through this 50 feet of river gravels to look for gold. Are they going through the whole 50 feet? Gold's heavier than the rocks. So the gold is typically at the bottom. The nuggets are in the bottom 2 feet of the river gravels and in the upper 1 foot of the cracked shale. So this is the pay layer. This is the pay layer. Let's get beneath these river gravels, or gravels that were deposited during the Ice Age, and let's get above this black shale, and we'll be doing fine there as well. So the placer operations in the valley bottoms, bottom of the river gravels, the gold up in the high country where the shale meets the lava rock. We got it so far? Okay? So that's the, in a way, what I'm doing is just setting the stage for these discussions, and also setting the stage for the visuals, because we're going to see mine shafts in shale up high. We're also going to see mine shafts where the walls of the tunnel is river rock. Like the tunnel has wall on the river rock. So tunnels, we got to keep straight where we are. Are we in the valley floor, or are we up high? Okay. Let's talk about the placer stuff a little bit more. We'll throw in a couple new ideas. And I am officially warm. All right. So, do you know how to get to Liberty? How do you get there? You jump on 97 and you head to Blewett Pass. All right, let's do this. Let's make a quick map. So here's Blewett Pass, US 97 up and over Blewett Pass. It's called a Swak Pass for a while. It's back to Blewett Pass. Okay, great. And here's the road coming down. Let's make this small. Here's the road coming down. And pretty much north-south. And then we eventually get down here. So this is 97. Ellensburg's down on the floor here. 97. Ellensburg, get to Lauderdale Junction or Verdon, right? We got the intersection. 970's coming in from Cle Elum. Y'all with me? And then we're continuing up. We got a landmark on the left. That's the Liberty Cafe. We got a landmark eventually up on the right. That's the old Mineral Springs Resort. And eventually we get up and over Blewett and down the Peshastin. Williams Creek is coming in from the northeast, and the town of Liberty sits on Williams Creek. Just must be like half a mile off of 97. So there is a town of Liberty. People live in Liberty. It's not a ghost town. People are still living there. People are still mining there. People are still finding gold. It hasn't all been taken. So it's not a ghost town story. It's still a community. Swak Creek basically follows the road, or the road follows Swat Creek coming down from Blewett Pass. And Swat Creek eventually leaves the road and jumps into Hidden Valley, and then eventually enters into the Yakima River upstream from the Howell Home Center. Okay? The river gravels. Remember, we care about the river gravels, right? We care about that 50 feet of gravels because it's sitting on top of what? Huh? Those gravels, and this is just a general map that I have seen from Wes Engstrom. Wes Engstrom is a wonderful writer and has compiled an amazing collection of historical photographs and stories from the old times, and he had a nice diagram in there showing. So I'm just going to kind of casually do this. In other words, those 50 feet of river gravels are not exactly where Swat Creek is today. So there's this old river channel veering off into the hills this way, veering off into the hills this way, veering off into the hills. It's sometimes right next to the road. It's sometimes 100 yards off the road. Sometimes it crosses the road. The river gravels. And again, why do we care? There's gold at the bottom of those gravels. So this idea of kind of an river gravel stream channels is what we want. And everyone is quite clear in the geologic community those river gravels were deposited during the Ice Age. Those river gravels, that 50 feet of river rock was brought there in these channels during the Ice Age, which to us means the last 2 million years. The last 2 million years, we have this 50 feet of big, rounded river gravels sitting on top of that. Now, as a geologist, without knowing anything about that area, when I first started going out there, I'm like, this doesn't quite work for me. This is not that big of a drainage. And there is no glaciation that we have record of in the upper valleys south of Blewett Pass. We're on the dry side of the rain shadow effect off the Cascades. This is not a place for huge glaciers. And yet we've got a hell of a lot of stuff, gravels, during the Ice Age sitting on top of the nuggets of gold. I was puzzled about this, and I'm still slightly puzzled about it. But I dug and found a few old maps. And Richard Waite, who's a respected geologist, did some mapping in here in the 1970s. And his call was that the glacier, this is ice. This is not controversial. Early in the Ice Age, there was a glacier that came down from Snoqualmie Pass, came down Interstate 90 over Cle Elum. And that ice made it all the way to Swat Prairie. A glacier from Snoqualmie Pass all the way to this area where 97 and 970 come together. It's called Swat Prairie. There's glacial till, there's moraines, there's a whole bit right there, okay? So it was a big, thick glacier right there. So here's the idea I'm working on. We're videotaping it, so I guess this is all official. I'm working on it. Not 100% sure. But Waite and others think that these gravels are actually outwash. If you were with us 2 weeks ago, we talked about outwash in Seattle, where a bunch of river rock is coming off the front of a retreating glacier. So it's tempting to say, oh, we got all these river gravels, and the river is heading south today, so that must mean that all this Ice Age river gravels came down the drainages. I'm starting to think that it's outwash from this retreating glacier that came up the valley. That all this 50 feet of river rock, which you'll see in a second, was coming from this glacier originally. And again, we're probably 1 million years ago, maybe even 1.5 million years ago, when we're laying all this stuff in. Now, am I saying the gold is coming from the glacier? I'm not. This is something I learned yesterday morning. This is how fresh this information is. So I had Rob come in. I ran this lecture by him. He said, I don't think, hold it now, hold it. The nuggets at the bottom of the Ice Age gravels, the gravels may very well be from the outwash, which is this pet idea that you've got. But I think the gravels came in long before the Ice Age. So the gravels are being washed out of the hills sometime between 47 million years ago, which we're going to see in a second, which is when we think the gold was deposited, until about 2 million years ago. And then we do this ice thing and basically bury these nuggets of gold in these old river valleys. Okay, whether you like that or not, we're moving on. We're going to go up into the hills now, with your permission. Now, if this was a classroom and you were a smaller group, we'd take time and have question and answer right now, and we'd talk, and we'd get your feelings out and your emotions, and your grandma did all this. Not today. We're moving right on. You're too big a group. Okay, now bedrock. We've got to totally change our viewpoint now. We're now up in the hills, right? Let me test you. What rock are we finding the crystalline gold in? It's in hard rock. What kind of rock? It's in shale, which is right next to basalt. Ooh, good. Shale right next to basalt. So let's put this into context. We did an Ellensburg Blue Agate lecture here a couple of years ago, and some of these are going to be the same units. So we're not talking about blue agates tonight, but there is a loose connection between these two topics. Blue stuff that's valuable, gold stuff that's valuable. Okay? So this should be familiar. Let's do it quickly. 93 million year old granite, 150 million year old serpentinite. Those are the oldest two bedrock layers in the Mount Stewart area. Okay? These have a whole story to themselves. We're not talking about that tonight. 50 million years ago, Washington was relatively flat. This is 50 million years ago, long before the Cascades, or before the Cascades started to grow. So we have a flat kind of Florida here. Warm, like tonight, humid, vegetation, all sorts of evidence that this was Florida 50 million years ago, including Liberty, Florida. Okay. And in that swampy lowland, we are depositing thousands of feet of sediment, thousands of feet of sandstones and shales that collectively are part of the Swauk Formation. So I'm just going to focus on the shales here. Sandstones and shales. We don't care about the sandstones tonight. They're not going to be helpful to us. But the black shales are. So this is some say up to 5,000 feet, if you really look at the total thickness of this. 5,000 feet of Swauk Formation, which is alternating sandstone, shale, sandstone, shale, sandstone. It's the shale that's going to host our gold in a second. Okay, 47. It's a big number for us. 47 million years ago, there was an event, a very dramatic geologic event. And that event involved cracking the crust and having lava come up through the cracks. Let's crack the crust. We crack right through that granite. We crack right through the Swauk Formation. We crack through the granite and the serpentinite. We crack. There's more than 50 individual cracks that you can still find today. And you go, oh, that's cool. I want to go up there and find those cracks and look down them. They're not open cracks. Why not? Because lava came up. Hawaiian-like magma surged up to the surface through those cracks, and a major series of lava flows flooded the surface. Let's put V here for volcanic. This is the Teanaway basalt, 47 million years old. The Teanaway basalt basically burying the Everglades in lava. And this is Florida, right? So we're taking this swamp and we're just burying it with a thick section of basalt lavas. Sitting on top of this is Roslyn coal. Sitting on top of that are the Columbia River basalt lavas and other things. We're not talking about that. Okay, we're going to stop our story here. The gold is being deposited only in the black shales near these cracks. Because remember, what are the cracks? They are filled with basalt lava. Where are the hard rock mine tunnels? They're right here next to these cracks. So if you're looking for gold and you're looking for a new place to find gold deposits, wire gold crystals up in the hills, you're looking for these dikes, these feeder dikes. That's what we call them, feeder dikes. A dike in geology is a crack that's filled with lava that cuts across other layers, and that's clearly what we have here. So these Teanaway feeder dikes are important to this story because they are hosting this gold. The gold, is it in the granite? No. Is it in the sandstones? No. Is it in the Teanaway basalt itself? No. It's just in these areas next to these dikes. More on this in just a second. I do, however, want to enlarge one of these spots. So this could be any of these little dots here. But now let's look carefully at the gold. So are you with me? I'm going to just enlarge one of these places where the shale is intersecting one of our feeder dikes. Okay? So here's our basalt feeder dike. And next to it is our black shale. Not the sandstone, the shale. Let's get our mine in here. Let's get Rob in here. Or Ollie Jordan back in 1932. And what we're looking for, I'm going to enlarge this now. Okay, I'm going crazy with my enlargements here. In the wall of the tunnel, in the shale, are cracks. These cracks are different. These are like veins. These are veins in the shale. And in the veins is the mineral calcite, a soft mineral, not quartz, not a quartz vein. Most of us know veins that are full of quartz. These are veins full of calcite, and that's probably not an accident. The shale is carbonaceous. The shale is carbon-rich. And so it's natural for us to develop calcite growths instead of quartz growths in this setting. Why do we care about the calcite? It's not just calcite in the veins. It's gold. The gold is with the calcite, which are in the cracks, which are in the shale, which are next to the Tianway feeder dikes. Now, you want to know what I want to know. Why is the gold only forming here? Why isn't it in the sandstones? When precisely did it come in? Did it come in right when this system was hot? That's what I've been trying to figure out in the last 3 days. I've been emailing all sorts of people who know this stuff, and we've had a little chat back and forth. And there are ideas that we need hydrothermal solutions. We need hot fluids to collect some of this gold and redeposit it in these spots. And so there were discussions among really smart folks who know a lot about these systems that maybe we had hydrothermal systems right along these dikes, because the dikes are pretty big. And maybe we're just collecting the gold and depositing it in the carbon because it's a better trap, better host than the sand. The sand has too many pores in it. Or another guy says, well, maybe all these dikes are so close together that as they propagate their way north, in other words, as the lava is trying to get to the surface in each of these feeder dikes, we've just got a big halo, a big zone of hot water pushing out in front of it, like a big moving washing machine, essentially. It's washing the Swak Formation clean and depositing the gold in the shale, and so on, and so on, and so on. That's a question mark. That's a question mark. Exactly why that gold is where it is. But we've got information. None of the rest of this is question mark. That's for good. So let's get rid of this, okay? I got one more sketch, and I guess I'm going to do it. I'm going to erase this quick. I'm going to do another sketch real quick, because I want to show you that the system today doesn't look exactly like this. There has been some folding. These layers aren't flat. They have been tilted. And the tilting, the folding, is the last part of this discussion. Quick cross-section now. Cross-section. Let's go south to north. So Blewett Pass is to the left. Ellensburg is to the right. Let's put the Liberty Cafe in here as a landmark, the Swak Creek. So we're driving along Swak Creek, up valley to Blewett Pass. And here's the skyline now. Here are the hills behind the Liberty Cafe. They don't really come down, I guess. Okay. And as we'll see in the photos in a second, across the street from the Liberty Cafe is some bedrock. That's the Tianway basalt. It's not flat, it's tilted. And most of it's gone. So let's throw some miners in here. Here's people walking around in the hills up above Liberty. Liberty's down here. You get to the top of the hills up above Liberty, and you are below where that Tianway basalt lava. Remember the lava that buried the Everglades? Most of it's gone. And where are the blue agates coming from? The blue agates are coming from pore spots within the Tianway basalt. So most of that's gone. Gee, I wonder where that stuff went. It got moved into the Kittitas Valley, and that's why we have blue agates in our valley. That was a couple of years ago. Okay, the lecture a couple of years ago. Didn't happen. All right. But coming down out of the Teanaway basalt are what? The feeder dikes. The vertical walls of basalt lava. And in Liberty, those feeder dikes, the basalt walls, are just going right to the top of the hills and stopping. But did they really stop? No, they continued originally to feed the Teanaway basalt lava. You got the picture? There used to be a lava flow carrying this whole scene. Most of it's gone, and the upper part of the feeder dikes is also gone. But the gold, Rob's mine and the other hard rock mines, are on opposite sides of the feeder dikes at the top, close to the tops of the hills, because we are below that system. So the last thing I want to show you is that I'm going to sketch in our black shale, because we know that's where the gold is found. I'm going to put another black shale in here. So the whole Squawk Formation has been folded, and most of the gold, I need shale right next to the basalt, most of the gold is towards the middle of the fold. Here's my point. This is the fold axis. This is the middle of the anticline. And Rob and others report that the hard rock mines are productive in the Liberty area if you are in the middle of an anticline. Not out here. So here's shale, here's a feeder dike, no gold. Here's a shale, feeder dike, no gold. Here's a most of it is in the middle of the axis, the middle of the fold itself. And just to help you confirm that that works for your head, remember the cracks in the shale that are going to fill with calcite and gold? Perhaps the cracks are the result of the folding. Maybe we're taking these brittle layers and we are warping them and cracking them, tensional cracks, and allowing hosts for the golds that are passing through. That's just my idea. There could be some cracks from the hydrothermal story and everything else. But this is the concept we want. It's not flat anymore. So when you drive and see the Liberty Cafe, off to your right is going to be the Teanaway basalt, and you go, hey, that used to go way up, it doesn't anymore. And then as you continue driving north, you are below the Teanaway, you are in the Squawk 50-million-year-old stuff, and it's only the placer stuff that's down low. So that's the last thing we can add. To get the placer deposits, the river gravel stuff, we got to wash this stuff down to the creek and get it underneath that 50 feet. So you are here, we're going there. If you've hit the Stewart Range, you've gone too far. Now, Liberty is not alone. This is Liberty, but there are other places where gold has been mined for the last 150 years in Washington. Very difficult to say what is common between these other gold mines. I can't say that they are the same story as what I'm peddling tonight. But I can say there's no gold here because we're under 2 miles worth of basalt lavas that are much younger. We don't have gold mines here because this is the Puget Lowland and we had glacial deposits. So it is a rare chance for us to get out of the Columbia River basalts to get into this 47-million-year-old story. So let's leave Ellensburg. Let's head up on 97, and we're heading here to the Squawk drainage in the Squawk mining district. And here's Rick Spencer flying a drone. There's a familiar landmark for you, that barn on 97, right? And we're heading north, dropping into Lauderdale Junction, and then we're heading here. Y'all know where we're talking, right? Good. So there's the landmark, and across the street from the landmark is the Teanaway basalt. Not flat, and projects up into the heavens because most of it has been eroded away. Liberty Gold, Liberty, Washington. People still living there. Since 1873, gold was first discovered then and has been steadily producing gold since then. So beautiful old photographs from Wes Engstrom's book. This is the book that I'll point out Wes when we're done in case you want to chat with him about this book. But he's got a treasure trove of wonderful old photographs from Liberty through the years. And he's also collected lots of stories from the old timers and their tall tales. So the point is, it's not all in the past. There is still gold, there is still mining. So this is one of Rob's operations. What do you think? Placer down low or hard rock? Oh, I heard both. These are what river rocks look like. So this is placer. We're tunneling into the river gravels, and this is one of Rob's mines. We're under the river gravels, but on top of the shale. Remember the pay layer at the bottom of the Ice Age gravels, but on top of the 50-million-year-old shale. So let's walk in here. We've had some film crews out there. Since then, we're not going to do any sound tonight. So this is one of the entrances to these elaborate tunnels that were all dug back more than 100 years ago. Rob is working tunnels that were already in establishment from this hard work by hand and candlelight more than 100 years ago. But there's new techniques now that Rob and other people who are doing placer operations are using. So he's got electricity now instead of candles. He's got a bobcat instead of a shovel. And he's got a metal detector instead of whatever the hell they used then. Okay, great. So this was back in May, I guess, and so it's pretty sloppy. There was an actual winter last year, so it was a lot of snow melt coming into the tunnels, etc. And occasionally, Rob and some friends will use their bobcat to kind of jackhammer into a wall and expose a little bit of the pay layer and then haul that stuff out to process. So setting up some lights for some TV work, and we're standing in a portion of a tunnel that they used that bobcat to enlarge by about 10 feet just the weekend before. And again, what happens to that rock? Get it out of the mine and then run it through a wash plant, which I'll show you in a second. We're going to leave now. We're going to leave this. So we're in the valley bottoms. I don't want you to get confused now, right? We're in the valley bottoms. We're in the river gravels. We're in the placer operations. So we're going to see this process of washing the gravel. So here's a bucket full of stuff that came out of the mine. Most of it is worthless. Most of it are these river gravels that don't have any value at all. But in that shovelful is some gold, some nuggets. So how do you get to that stuff? You got to sort it out. You got to use sluicing equipment and an operation that Rob has here, a big Rube Goldberg operation to get that material and sort things out by size using the physics of water and other things to eventually get down to a couple of nuggets. So this is a montage put together by Rick Spencer. And we've got running water getting the bigger stuff off to the base. You'll see in a second how this works. Oh, artsy shot. Very nice. This is all right next to Highway 97. You drive by it every time. So these are rocks that aren't going to be valuable, but they can maybe be sold or used for building a road or something like that. Again, we're trying to get down to the finest nuggets, the finest particles that are the valuable nuggets. So now we're down to that level. Out of that big shovelful that you saw just a second ago, we're now down to one nugget that, like a kid, Rob gave me the chance to discover on my own. So here's the one little nugget out of that one shovelful that came out of that mine that you just saw. But there's more gold there. That's the one nice nugget, and that nugget is this wire gold, remember, up high that's moving and getting compacted. So it doesn't form as a nugget. It's originally the crystalline gold. Now we're even finer here. We got this astroturf and all this really fine stuff settling out of this water solution. Again, this is part of the wash plant. And now we're down to, it might as well be 1881. We're panning for gold now. And that's the last part of this process, to get down to this finest particles and to get gold pieces, gold flakes, etc. So this is the guy you're going to hear from and ask questions from in just a second. He's sitting in the front row, probably embarrassed that we're showing this of him. This is a little longer than it needs to be, but we're going to eventually show a few little extra gold nuggets that are at the bottom of this pan. There we go. Oh, I'll be. All right. Great. So, he's had luck. As many of these folks have had luck through that process. So, not all the old-timers grabbed all the stuff. They were wonderful in what they were doing, and they took the obvious stuff, but there's still a lot of gold that can be found. Here's a good shot, I think, of these 50 feet of river gravels. And so, is there gold right here and here and here? There is not. There's only gold in the bottom 2 feet of this and in the upper 1 foot of the black shale that forms the floor of this. So this is from, I think Wes's, I borrowed this from Rob actually, but here's some of these channels Remember, I was drawing these channels, these Ice Age channels, or actually channels that were maybe older than that were bringing the gold down and that were buried by the glacial outwash. Doesn't quite match up with the current drainages that we have. So today we've got more work. And we've got more work. And instead of building a new tunnel, sometimes let's just get rid of the gravels a different way to get down to the pay layer. So here we are at a different spot, down low. And this is Rob. This is stuff we just got to get rid of. We got to get rid of. So what do you do with all this rock? You got to move it somewhere so that you can get to the valuable stuff in the pay layer at the bottom of this 50 feet of river gravel. So again, these gravels came in during the Ice Age. Is my idea correct? I don't know now, but is this all stuff that got brought in from that melting glacier at Squaw Prairie? I think it's distinctly possible. Okay, the crowd likes this one because it's gold, for goodness sake. And more gold. All from the placer operations. Look at these beauties, up to 16 ounces. From the placer, from the bottom of the river gravels, or tucked into the cracks at the top of the black shale. And Rob is right there by the highway, so he visits with all sorts of folks who stop, and this is the film crew from Seattle and PBS that we're trying to learn from him, and they were just as into it as anybody else, even though they're from Seattle. They were very excited. And took the film crew inside. There's all this elaborate rock work that was done by Chinese workers more than 100 years ago to stack these rocks along the sides of the tunnels. And this is Rob on the right and a guy named Mike Corbley, who passed away last year. Spent 35 years working in the placer deposits, I think, primarily. And on his last day out there mining, found his biggest discovery. So that was a wonderful way to end a long mining career. So here's to Mike. Okay, switch gears. Very quickly, we're leaving the placer, we're leaving the valley floor, we're going up to Flag Mountain, which is one of the hills up above the town of Liberty. So this is hard rock. Switch your mind around now, right? We're done with the Ice Age stuff and we're into the shale that's next to the feeder dikes. With me? Good. So this is in the Tainum, just looking at the swaks, the cells. These are sandstones and shales that have these beautiful fossils within them. These layers of sandstone, and here's the black shale in a nice big section. Those are the layers that we're talking about here. This is Washington 50 million years ago, by the way. Florida, flat. The west coast of Washington 50 million years ago was Seattle. The south coast of Washington, that's an interesting idea. Maybe, I don't know, Colotus or something. And in that swak formation, we've got all these wonderful fossils that tell us that it was a very different climate than it is today. But 47, we know what happened. 47 million years ago, here's our event. Here's the cracks, and here's the basalt squirting up through the cracks, cutting across these other layers. You can see it. It's just as clear as day, right? Basalt squirting up, but this is sandstone, so there's no gold here. We need that black shale, remember? And we need the black shale next to the Tianwei basalt in the core of an anticline. That's really what we want. So we're between Table Mountain, north of town, and Mount Stewart, where this whole story is taking place here. The gold is underneath this. The gold, if it ever was here, has been eroded away. So the Tianwei itself are these dikes. We've already got the concept. Here's an animation showing lava coming up 47, and once it gets to the surface, this Tianwei lava is burying the surface. It's burying the Everglades. And the black shale is down here next to that fissure. So this is a beautiful old geologic map that I just found yesterday on the internet. 1903, George Otis Smith. He was on horseback. This is Liberty. This is up 97. Doesn't exist at the time, of course. Over Blewett Pass. What's every one of these red lines? A feeder dike. A feeder dike. Every one of these red lines is one of these squirts of lava up one of those cracks. Now, the feeder dikes in the Liberty area are trending generally east-west. The rest of these feeder dikes trend northeast-southwest. Maybe the east-west trend of these dikes mean gold, and maybe these guys don't mean gold. Maybe Rob can talk about that, but I just shared this map with him. Maybe he saw it for the first time, and so we're kind of processing this as well as Chris Mattinson and a few others who've looked at it. This is an older map showing, here's our friend the Teanaway basalt that's dipping a different direction because we're looking differently. Here's the Teanaway feeder dikes. Here's the folded sandstones and shales. Got it now? Let's screw that one. North of Ellensburg, we're north of the Teanaway basalt. We're into the Squawk, and we're trying to get up high. So let's actually get to a couple of these hard rock mines before we quit. So here's Rob taking me up on a beautiful June day, maybe, July, I kind of forget. And we're up with the shale and the sandstone, and this is what he's pulling out of that mine. This is what wire gold looks like. It looks very different than those nuggets, right? This is original gold, crystalline gold, gold crystals. And they're growing, I know this looks like quartz, but they're growing in this mineral calcite. And remember, the calcite is forming in those fractures in the shale next to the basalt. So if you can dissolve the calcite away, you're left with this beautiful wire gold in its rarest form, actual size, and view through the eyepiece. So there's old mines that Rob has gotten his hands on, papers of the old mines and consulting work. This is the Ollie Jordan mine. And Ollie was a guy who had great luck back in the 1930s, and then this general area had more strikes in the mid-1950s. And some of this gold is now in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Let's go into one of these mines, and hopefully this looks different. Does this look different to you? These aren't the river rocks anymore, right? This is hard rock now. We're into the Squawk sandstone originally, so these walls are made out of the sandstone. That's not going to work for us. So there's calcite veins, but they don't have any gold in them because we're in this sandstone. What do we need to get into? We need the shale, right? So we got to go deeper into the tunnel to get to the shale. And once we get into the black shale, then some of the veins are going to have some of this wire gold within them. So here's Rob just giving me a quick tour. And obviously they've picked the wire gold out that's obvious, but this is the place to rework if you've got the resources. Great shot from Rob. Black shale, calcite, wire gold growing in the calcite beds. And this was known back in the 1870s and 80s, so they were digging those tunnels back then and finding the great stuff, and those tunnels are still there up there as well. So Rob is reworking tunnels up high, and he's reworking tunnels down low. Calcite veins, wire gold within them. Calcite veins filling the cracks that potentially, still not sure about this one, potentially from the folding of the Squawk sedimentary series. Okay, you get the idea. Beautiful stuff. Whole sections of this. Just a little bit of human history, and then I'm done with this portion. So the Jordan family goes way back in the Liberty lore. Father, and then 3 sons, and then their sons, etc., and the whole family was involved. And Ollie, who was the guy who had the mine that we just visited, this is a beautiful photo taken of him by Wes in the early 70s. You recognize this, right? This is the fairgrounds. This is in Ellensburg, next to the rodeo, when they had the gold mining panning thing back then in the early 70s. So this is late in Ollie's life, but in 1932, he made a great strike. And he bought this mine from another guy who didn't have any luck with the mine. And so the guy thought that he just made out like a bandit, and he sold this lemon mine to Ollie. And within a couple of weeks, Ollie had this huge haul of all this beautiful gold that he just pulled right out of pockets, just wire gold just waiting for him. And so there was this great turnaround in rejoicing. And it was a big news, not only locally, but there was a newsreel that was shot in 1932. October/November of 1932. Gold strike at the Ollie Jordan mine or something like that. And Rob and others, probably Wes, would love to find that old news footage. Now, I've been on YouTube and I've written a few archives places trying to find this 1932 Discover Gold in the Squawk with this Hearst Metronome news business. But we haven't found anything yet. So if you're gifted with that kind of thing and you could help us out, that would be appreciated. So back into the 50s, we've got cousins and we've got brothers and we've got sons who are hauling out all sorts of this wire gold and other crystalline gold from the mine. Here's Clarence, brother of Ollie, at the Ace of Diamonds mine, which is just next door, also on the same mountain from the Ollie Jordan mine. And the Daily Record here in Ellensburg would have splashes occasionally if a big strike was discovered. Ollie today is in Ellensburg up on Radio Hill with his wife, both born in 1885. Ollie made it until 1983. And Bertha had some spare time, I think. This is wire gold that had different shapes, and so she collected enough to get the alphabet here. Made a postcard of it. Here's Rob's business card. He's got some wire gold that's actually the size of your eyelash that's been magnified to show you the fragility and the scale of some of this wire gold. And like I said, I brought Rob into school yesterday and ran this stuff by him. And he's telling his plan for this summer and where all these big nuggets are and his location. I'm sorry, I can't find the sound button on this thing. I don't know. He's got it all figured out, though. I'm ready to quit my job and go up there and help out. But it's all right there in black and white, as you can plainly see. So it's a totally transparent operation here. It's all right there. Okay, great. So that's that. If we get some lights back on, please, we're going to get Rob up here and do a little question and answer. You didn't grow up in Liberty. You've been mining for about 20 years. So when did you arrive in Liberty, and how did you get into that mining community?
I came over prospecting way back in the early 80s.
Okay.
Met some people in Liberty, got familiar with the wire gold, and I was fascinated by it, and it's captivated me ever since. In 1996, I had an opportunity to go full-time mining with Billy Snyder, so I rented out my house, moved in the back of my truck, and drove over, and I've been here ever since.
A little louder, please, on this next answer. What's the average width of the dikes, and how far apart are they?
20 to 50 feet probably is an average. Anywhere from 50 yards to 100 yards, maybe 400 yards. It's a big dike swarm. There's thousands of dikes in the Teanaway dike swarm.
Are there any remnants of the Teanaway basalt that is not feeder dike? Like up above Liberty, up in the hills, are there any places where you can still see the lava flow itself, or is it totally gone?
Well, right there at the Liberty Cafe, the picture you showed is part of that lava flow.
But up above your place?
But up above, no, there's not. The whole swag drainage, I believe, was domed over at one time with Teanaway basalt, but it's all completely eroded away, just like your diagram. The cap of it is gone.
Okay. As technology improves, will we see a resurgence in mining in the Liberty area?
Yes, you will.
Do you have any predictions for what new technologies would help advance what you guys are finding?
In the placer mining, in the old days, two men working side by side, digging a 6 foot wide by 6 foot tall tunnel could average 1 foot of advancement per day. Working with candles, black powder, hand drilling. We go underground with the Bobcats now. We mount a big old hydraulic hammer on the front of a Bobcat, and our tunnels are 12 feet wide, 12 feet tall, and we can do 12 feet in one day. So the amount of volume of dirt and ground we're able to get a lot more gold. It makes a poor piece of ground to do by hand actually payable nowadays. That, as well as there's other technology in the hard rock, as well as placer, using electronics for recovery instead of specific gravity.
How does wire gold develop?
It grows dendritically. Gold is in a solution, in a hydrothermal solution. As that solution is coming up alongside the basalt dike, there is an affinity for carbon. Carbon and gold have an affinity for each other. If there's an open space, a cavity in that black shale that the solution gets into, the gold will precipitate out of solution, form a little tiny crystal on the wall of this cavity, and then once those seed crystals are rooted in that cavity, the only thing that gold likes better than black shale or carbon is itself. So then the next particle of gold will attach to the particle that's already there, and it will grow and branch off dendritically into this crystalline wire.
I have access to 2 quartz claims just south of Mineral Springs. What are my chances of finding gold-bearing quartz in the benches of the gulches trending eastward toward Swat Creek? You want that again?
Yeah.
I have access to 2 quartz claims just south of Mineral Springs. What are my chances of finding gold-bearing quartz in the benches of the gulches trending eastward toward Swat Creek?
Fairly slim, I think. There is gold up there. There's gold all over the whole Swat drainage. The predominant gold is along a northwest-southeast anticline that runs right smack through the town of Liberty, and then a second anticline that runs more northerly through Nelson Hill, they call it. The rest of the country has gold in it, but the pockets are on the anticlines and in the black shale. There are hard rock vein mines, but nothing of any great significance. There's never been any real strong commercial mining in Liberty.
Where can gold be taken after 40,000 flakes have been collected? Because 40,000 approximates to 1 ounce.
Take it to me, I'll buy it.
What?
I'll buy it.
You'll buy it. Any idea of the total weight of gold mined in Swat District since the discovery in 1873?
No, none whatsoever. There's been some. The largest documented recorded pocket of the wire gold was 128 pounds on the Ace of Diamonds in 1956 by Clarence Jordan and Al and Ted Marcier. The 600-ounce 1932 pocket was Ollie Jordan. Tweeten Johnson's had, I don't know the number on that one. Those are all the museum quality stuff. Virgil Heiner did a tremendous amount of mining in the town of Liberty, and I've got a photograph here. There must be 150 pounds of gold on a blanket outside. I don't know what the volume, the total was, and nobody does.
Do you need a claim to gold pan?
No. Come to my house, I'll show you.
Oh. Does the vein run under the mountain to Wenatchee? There's not one vein. How far north do you think you find these hard rock deposits?
There's a lot of controversy over the origin of the Swat gold. Jacob Margoli, a geologist, puts the date of mineralization for the Swat at the same as Wenatchee, the same hydrothermal event 40 million years ago. There's no vein connecting the two, but they are related somehow.
Is there gold in the Teanaway basalt west of 97 near Red Top?
Nothing significant.
Okay. Are there any open mine claims left?
Yes, there are. But you have to get established in a mining district. You have to get to know some people, and to find a good one, you're only going to hear about it through the grapevine.
You're doing great. Is there some physical or chemical affinity of gold to the shale?
Yes, gold loves carbon. And carbon acts as a precipitating agent to force that gold that is in solution out of solution.
Where did the gold come from in the first place?
How far back do you want to go? It takes a supernova to create gold. So when the planets coalesced, there was gold scattered all over the place. And geologic events over and over, subduction zones, earthquakes, intrusives, over time concentrate that gold a little bit more and a little bit more until it finally gets into a commercial grade somewhere.
Did you ever meet Ollie Jordan or his family members? Do you have any personal connection to the guy who had your mine?
I did not meet him. Wes Engstrom came across a 13-hour audio that was done by Fred Krueger that is a fascinating listen. But that's as close as I've got to Ollie Jordan.
About what year did the early mining end?
It hasn't ended.
So early 1870s, 1880s, there was lots of excitement. Many of those folks left. How would you plot the last 120 years? Has it been steady? Has it been up and down as far as number of people and number of strikes?
No, it hasn't been steady. There's all kinds of things that affect whether mines stay active. The price of gold being number one. Up until 1935, gold was set at 35 bucks an ounce.
Thank you.
If it wasn't profitable to mine, they weren't going to mine. When World War II broke out, you couldn't mine. All the mines were shut down to go towards the war effort. All the work went towards building stuff for the war, and all the mines in this country were shut down. When the war ended, the economy was great. Gold was still 35 bucks an ounce. It didn't pay to go back to the mines. When Nixon got us off the gold standard, which I don't agree with, but he did, and gold went to 800 bucks an ounce, then suddenly there was a revival. It was suddenly worthwhile to go mining again.
What are the most common questions that you get when people stop and visit you? What are you tired of answering?
Where's a good place? Is there a claim open? Same kind of stuff, and I answer all the questions. I get tons and tons of visitors out there, and I answer all the questions because I was in the same spot myself at one time. I didn't know anything. I wish to hell he'd have had this presentation for me 20 years ago.
Are gold miners as territorial as mushroom hunters?
No, they're far worse.
What do you do with your gold when you find it?
I sell it. I keep a few pieces that are special, that mean something to me, but I sell the rest. In reality, it's just another rock. It's a yellow rock that I managed to make a living off of.
What's the price of gold these days?
Right around 1,200 bucks an ounce. It was 1,900 a year and a half ago.
It was higher a year ago?
Yeah.
I'm out of questions. How do you want to wrap this up? Can we... Do you have free samples?
I have one more question. Where do you sell the gold? Who buys it?
Who buys the gold?
Just about anybody. I've got people over in Spokane that buy my placer gold. I don't sell to a mint because you get deducted for the amount of silver that's in your gold. Liberty Gold has about 20% silver, so you get deducted 20% less than spot right out of the gate. Plus they charge you a refining fee. So I don't go to the refiners. I sell to somebody else who's going to sell individual pieces as a resale. So that I get my better price. That's on the placer gold, the smooth little nuggets. The wire gold I sell on the internet or to rock collectors for a considerably higher price.
I'm going to ask a couple more, and then I think we're just going to come up and do some one-on-one up in front of the stage here. It's important for you to talk about mining to groups like this. Why is that important to you?
What
do you
I
think
do,
people understand what mining is?
Mining is everything. There isn't a single thing in this world that exists without it. We seem to be the cotton shirt on your back, even though it's cotton. It took an industry of some sort made out of metals to get it to you. We seem to be in this movement to stop all mining to protect Mother Earth, and it's nonsense. You stop mining and you stop all life on this planet.